Hello everybody, this is Tim here again. Heard another movie review. Sorry about that glare in the background there. Um, I recently just watched the film Happy Death Day 2. Now to start off, I did a review for Happy Death Day 1 back in the day when it first came out. I didn't really enjoy the film. I pretty much gave it a 1.5 star. I thought it sucked. I wanted to watch it again though because the film does kind of have a cult following, or a following, I mean. There's a lot of people that do enjoy the film, so I wanted to watch it again to see if my thoughts on it had changed. Watching it again, it's not as bad as I thought it was. Now I'd give it like a low 2. It's a passable flick, but it's not really a horror movie. It's just a comedy. What should have been a fun horror comedy is just really a teeny bopper comedy, and it's just not what I'm interested in watching at this time at my age. And it's still a passable flick. The main actress who plays Tree is really good, and she's hot, and she pretty much carries that film and this one. And she's the best thing about the films. The acting in both films, though, is fine from the supporting characters. We get into the second one here. This one takes another totally different approach, wanting to be more of a drama sci-fi. The horror elements are almost completely unnecessary here, and are barely here except for maybe like at the beginning and at the end. Just like kind of bookends, prologues and bookends, really. One thing I do like is how it starts out with this one. It's like the Asian guy from the first one with the dyed blonde hair is like in his own loop this time. And you find out how the loop actually got made. It's from like this quantum type device that he's working on. It causes time mess ups or whatever in alternate dimensions. And you don't really need that. It's really better unexplained. But if you gotta explain it, I guess this doesn't work for me at all. I'll just say it. You don't really need this at all. And they call it out. This is pretty much a Back to the Future ripoff, just like the first movie was a Groundhog Day ripoff. Pretty much in this film, we got the character of Tree back, and once again, she's hot. This film has more over-the-top comedy than the first that doesn't really mesh with what the film's trying to be, which is not a horror movie at all, which is a dramatic sci-fi, a comedy drama sci-fi flick, really. And she's got really over-the-top comedy where she like kills herself and falls out of a airplane, like skydiving, and she's like flipping off towards the camera with her bra and panties on, which looks good, but still really over-the-top and stupid. And she hits the ground and dies. Pretty much the big gist of the movie is she tries to fix the time loops, and she uses the quantum device and sends herself to an alternate dimension. And it is kind of neat here. This is when the movie has the most potential when she's in the alternate dimension. Like her boyfriend is like with the other girl Danielle, who was a bitch in the first one. She's still a bitch here, which is kind of weird that out of all of them, she's the only one that's still a bitch. It's pretty much kind of a cop out there to say it's okay for this alternate version of her boyfriend to cheat on Danielle in this world because she's still a bitch here. But you get one really interesting thing here. The best thing about the script here is that the girl Tree's mom is alive in this one. Pretty much her mom dying in the other movie is why she was such a bitch in her life later on, before she, of course, went through her character growth and became a better person. Here, her mom's alive in this dimension, so that's really cool, and you get some really heartwarming scenes with them together, and that's when the drama kicks in, and the horror is like totally forgotten for 60% of this movie, maybe even more. Find out at the end the killer is like the doctor from the last movie in this alternate dimension. Him and his wife are like killing them. I guess he's killing the chicks to like appease his wife because he's been screwing around on his wife or whatever, and that's how he has to make it up to her. And he ends up killing her too, I guess, to frame her for the murders, just to get rid of her because he doesn't want anything to do with her. And he just gets killed by this big like magnet thing, and it's just really thrown in. It's just like at the get tongue tied, like at the last minute, really. Any real slashing goes on. The first movie suffers because it pretends to be a horror comedy. Sorry about that stupid light here. Let me fix that. The first one suffers because it pretends to be a horror comedy when it's really just a teeny bobber comedy. That's still not working. I'm sorry. I guess that's probably as good as I'm gonna get it. But yeah, the first one suffers because of that. And the first one is supposed to be like this Groundhog Day comedy type horror slasher where of course, the kills are supposed to keep you entertained because the girl dies over and over, and you would expect them to be like really goofy or even bloody kills, but every time it gets to like the blood or the slashing, it just like cuts away, and it just suffers from PG-13 so bad. This one doesn't pretend to be a horror movie, so I give it points for that. It is a what I said, a drama or a comedy, drama sci-fi type flick rolled into one, trying to mesh it together. It doesn't do as good a job meshing the tones here as the first one did. Even the first one didn't do a great job either. This film has been getting some backlash from the fan base who was disappointed this film is not really a slasher at all, but the director explained that he wanted to go for something different and not just repeat the same movie. I appreciate that. I like Jason Goes to Hell because it is totally different from the other Friday the 13th movies. It fully embraces the fact it is different, doesn't pretend to be a Friday the 13th movie. It's just its own thing, a creature feature starring Jason. Here, they try to have it both ways. They want to be a real sequel to the first movie, but at the same time they want to do something totally different in tone and style. And it just doesn't really mesh together. It doesn't really work. The girl Tree, who plays Tree, is once again really good to look at. She does great. She does good here. I wouldn't say great, but she does good here. She carries the film. The film ends, of course, with her deciding to leave her mom and accept her regular life and go back to her own timeline. And the loop thing gets fixed. And if they ever do a third one of these, they need to. Well, the first one didn't really need a sequel at all. This is a pretty much one gimmick kind of story. And you really didn't need a sequel whatsoever, but you're going to get one because the first one made a shitload of money on a low budget. So you got one anyway, but they try to have their cake and eat it too here, and it just does not work. The comedy and the sci-fi and all that just doesn't mesh together here, even as well as the first one's horror elements and comedy did. And like I said, the humor here just isn't as funny. One really funny scene, though, is where Tree wakes up in this alternate dimension, and she's like in the same loop, but in the alternate dimension version of like the first movie where she's waking up and the phone keeps playing "It's Your Birthday" or whatever, and she just like freaks out and runs outside screaming. That was pretty funny. That I'll give the movie that. You get to the end, of course, and she chooses to go back to her own place, and everything gets fixed. There's one really well directed scene where her and the alternate version of her boyfriend kiss at the end, and it's like these sparks flying everywhere because the machine got activated. That was well shot. She goes back to her own world, everything's fixed, and it kind of ends with a setup with the Danielle girl going to be like the next person to be put into a loop. That's the correct way to go with another one. She needs to be the star, even though I don't really think that she can carry it. I don't know if she can or not. I would have to see it first. She's fine here, but once again, the comedy with her like walking around acting blind in this one scene is like just really bad and just not timed right at all. It just doesn't work. The script is worse for here and weaker in in every area, really. Yeah, but I will give them, like I said, I give the movie points. It doesn't pretend to be a horror film. You get to the end, and yeah, of course, the Danielle girl, we get the idea that she's going to be the next one and to go through an experiment or whatever with this device and go into her own loop. And I guess that's supposed to be the setup for the third. Once again, they'll probably try to bring Tree back and put her in there too somehow, some way, and force it really bad. This movie did not need a sequel, and this really shows. This film does feel forced. All in all, this is a low 2-star film like the first, but I give it an even slightly lower 2-star rating than the first one. Because the first one I can watch is kind of a time waster if I'm extremely bored and like somebody else wants to watch it. This one I'll probably never watch again. It really has no reason to exist. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.